So I've been in the industry about 23 years, and my role is to lead all the trading negotiations for the group. So I've worked at Omnicom, Cara, and Group M over my career. Who was in that top left-hand view? That's very right. You guys are going to hate the next 15 minutes because there's no detail. It's just a few images, but hopefully I can tell you a story as I go through. And really what I kind of want to get across to you guys is, some of the pressures, the collaboration things, and some of the things you've been talking about today. I think some of the biggest challenges that we all face are based around time, right? And time changes us into kind of different animals at different times. We've all got things to do, and we want to kind of rush and get them done, and sometimes we take shortcuts on the way through. But that's kind of implications for the way that we kind of operate in the business environment. And just kind of want to just spend a couple of seconds just what's happened in the last couple of years, just 2 years. So if you look at kind of how much money we all spend or invest on behalf of clients, it's $6.5 billion in Australia was spent in 2008. As a group, we just look up our group because we've got the data for that, but there was just under 2 million individual television spots that we were buying across 1 year. So you guys were doing that. That's a huge amount of transactions. We were dealing with kind of 4 just commercial free-to-air television stations. Just in terms of analysis of stuff, right? The administration behind everything that we had to do. We had to analyse 310 rate cards a year, so every single market to work through that. Not forgetting, there's a real concentration of media owner and kind of buying power in the Australian market, where 69% of all of the money goes to 5 major media companies. So that was kind of the landscape 2 years ago. And you fast forward a couple of years, advertisers are spending more, and they'll continue to spend more, a little bit more this year. 9% more billings we're going through. This is the kind of the pressure point on all of us. In our business, we've seen 35 to 40% more transactions, so more spots, more insertions, more placements. And guess what? The number of people in our industry hasn't gone up by anything like that. So that's creating some of this pressure. And I suppose if we just come into the business, that's kind of your normal life now, but all of our businesses are trying to adapt to this change and the pressure that's putting on. Now, if you think about it, just in television, there's 11 TV stations that we're dealing with now, like commercial free-to-air. And what that's created is a whole new load of analysis that we have to do just to keep the machine kind of going. So you've got more people doing more stuff all of the time. And there's still this big concentration, about 65% of all the money goes to 5 media companies. So, what implications does that have for us? The reality is a lot of us are firefighting for most of the day. Right? You're trying to put out fires, you're trying to find out what's the most urgent thing that needs to be done. And that's challenging for everybody, but that is, that's the reality of the business that we're in. What that actually does cause is a bit of kind of tension between all of us at times, buyers and sellers, clients, who's more urgent than the last person. And I think if you're working in an agency, you're trying to get the media owners that you're working with more focused on your issues than anybody else. You're not really interested in what else is happening around you, and sometimes you get that kind of tension about, I've got to turn things around quickly, and then the quality of your work starts being impacted very, very quickly. I think there's a couple of ways to kind of deal and manage with negotiations when you're taking, clearly there's opportunities that when it gets so frustrating, you just want to tell people where to go. We're talking here about collaboration and what's the most effective way to communicate with people. Clearly, you'll remember the first person and they'll remember you when you do the big verb to them. But there will be frustrating times, and you'll be going back to those same people, and at times we'll all be begging, and I've begged as much as anybody else in the industry, and probably more, that you do need things done and you need favours done. So you've got to keep that context of these are long-term relationships that you're trying to deal with. Clients will put you under pressure, they're continually asking for things, and I think we've got to be the people, if there's one thing to do, it's like listen. Right? We have to be much better at listening to the key cues. So if you're on the sales side and you're coming into agencies, you've got to kind of get a sense for what else is going on in their lives, because everyone, Danny will talk to you specifically about kind of that sales environment coming into agencies and what's seen differently, but the whole thing about effectiveness for me, just find the opportunity to step back and listen to what people are saying, pick up the cues, right? Because quite often we go away and we do a massive amount of work, and actually the client only wanted 2 or 3 sheets. They kind of wanted a summary, but we just assumed that they wanted all this work because we delivered it to them last time. So I think that listening technique is critical. And I think it's questions. You know, sometimes if I'm talking to an audience, like I ask lots and lots of questions. Well, it's not really asking lots of questions. It's just about asking the right questions. You know, this task that I've just been given or handed down by my manager, when's it needed by? You know, what's the pressure point? What's the absolute information you're looking for? Because quite often someone will give you a document and kind of asks you to update it. And you find yourself updating with reams of paper and you're not sure how it's going to be used. If you can understand how the output is going to be used, whether it's a client, you know, your own sales teams, your trading teams, you're going to be much more efficient because you've just got to the bottom of it and you'll end up getting more quality work. So I think be very, very kind of aware of the questions that you're going to be asking. Make no mistake, to get our job done in today's world takes many, many hands. Right? Sometimes we take all of the pressure on ourselves and we try and turn it around and we do the best job we possibly can. But to get the right outcome, you've got to engage everybody, right? Whether you're on the media side or on the agency side, you need everyone working with you. The more you can get them working with you, and they have to choose who they want to work with. So, you know, if you're the person that they want to work with, then they'll work late for you at night, and they'll make sure that the quality of the output that you're getting back is better than anyone else. On the agency side, that's absolutely critical to have people, a team of people that are going to work and kind of deliver that for you. So I think kind of give them the reasons to want to do things kind of well for you. You know, the reality is a lovely fairy tale, but all of the decisions that we have to make as organisations on behalf of clients, they don't all end in this fairy tale finish. There will be really difficult questions, really difficult decisions that you have to make, and whether that be on either side of the fence. You know, if you're on the sales side, someone's going to push you too hard at one point and you're going to have to walk away from them. That's fine. And equally on the trading side or with clients, you've got to make those tough calls, and it's really about how you communicate those tough calls and make sure that you don't cut off your nose to spite your face. So that whole collaboration piece will still keep coming back to, it's like, what did they tell you throughout this whole process? You know, is it a surprise? How am I going to communicate the bad news when the bad news has to come along? Because undoubtedly it will. And I think emails probably, here's one that I would send to Kurt Burnett. So Kurt Burnett, for those who don't know, he heads up all of 7 Media Group's assets. Yeah. If I send a response like this, thanks for the response to the brief, unfortunately you didn't win, then it's kind of World War II, or 3 or 4 or 5. But, you know, absolutely that creates chaos, that communication. And naively I might have thought, well, I've told them they haven't won the business. But if you're at any level that you're dealing with, the people that have been on that kind of journey with you about understanding what you want, trying to do the best job for you, they've now got to communicate this internally. And if you haven't given them the steps, everything becomes a surprise and everything becomes chaos, and then everybody's kind of got a bad opinion of each other. So I think you've got to be really, really think about how you're going to communicate difficult decisions. You know, you've got to find it within your own time frame, you know, but you've got to be effective at communicating some of these things. And just, you know, the difference between, the outcome may be exactly the same. You'll notice I've kind of copied a few people on it, because whoever L. James is, I've just made up a name, they're part of this process with you. So if you're saying, can you give me a call, I want to update you on where we are in the Canon process, they've got some concerns, we want to discuss it with you in person, we need to make a final recommendation in 48 hours. You've actually given them in 2 lines, in 10 words more, you've told them that there's some issues, you've told them what your deadline is, it's 48 hours, and with a process like that, 7 are still with you on the journey. They may stick to exactly the same decision they would have been made 24 hours ago, and so might we. But you're actually giving them the clues. They can talk about it internally and communicate. And they might come back with a better offer, you never know. But the reality is you're not going to surprise people. And if you don't surprise people, then people can't ever hold anything against you. And I think that's kind of the key to that collaboration. You're going to keep going back to these people. For as long as you're in the business, you're going to kind of create this relationship with people that's going to last over a long period of time. Now, whilst we might not end up all looking like this as a family, the reality is a lot of you will kind of grow and develop within this business at the same time with each other. And if you're all doing it in 10 years' time, a lot of you will be leading businesses. Might not be 10 years, might be 5 or 6 years. But you'll all have had lessons on the way about how to deal with each other. The more you can talk, listen, ask the right questions, you will be the most effective communicators in the business. And I think If I just reflect on the last 20 years, we used to have hours and hours in retrospect to get to know the people that we were dealing with. Now we've got minutes or seconds. Sometimes we don't see the people that we're actually transacting with. And that's a massive challenge for all of you guys, and you've got to find a new way of communicating that's effectively, whether it's messenger or whatever it is, you've got to still find a way of communicating effectively, because the amount of time that you can spend with people face to face is going to be less. Getting into the agencies is a challenge. And I won't kind of nick any of Danny's stuff from that. I think, I'll leave you with one image, and that's kind of have a think about what you're asking. How's that going to stand out on whoever's desk it lands on? Why are they going to go that extra mile for you? What extra information have you given those people that will allow them to give you a better response? And that doesn't matter which side of the fence you are or whether you're a client. What's going to make the request that you'll make stand out? Because there are lots and lots of really, really average kind of requests that go in every single day. And I think if there's one bit of feedback from any of the senior media owners, they all kind of say to me that the briefing process, the people that can brief and communicate effectively get the best results. And you just find that you've got this whole team of people that are working with you, actually doing some of the job for you. If you tell them you've got 100 grand to spend next month, you'll get a kind of sheet of paper back telling you how to spend 100 grand. If you take them on the journey and make your brief stand out, then you'll win every single time. So, I suppose for me, is how long did
feels like right now.
Danny's looking at his watch. I think he's seething that his computer didn't work. But I think just be aware of that effective communication. How do you give people enough information to help you on your journey? And I think that's kind of all I've got to say. I'm happy to do questions now, or we'll do questions
We'll do
after.
questions after.
Yeah, okay. All right.
We'll give it one last shot, and otherwise I'll...